Welcome to AI Unraveled, your daily forensic briefing at the intersection of business and artificial intelligence. It is Wednesday, April 15th, 2026. I'm your host, Etienne Newman, professional engineer based in Calgary, Alberta, in Canada. Before we begin our autopsy of the market, a quick reminder. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe to AI Unraveled directly on Apple Podcasts so you can enjoy this strategic briefing and all our daily episodes completely ads-free. Today's episode is brought to you by Area and Jamgamind. When Lumen's CEO admits that over 50% of all global internet traffic is now generated by AI bots, standard enterprise network defenses fail. Area provides the zero-trust sandboxing required to govern agentic workflows and protect against automated network threats. And to navigate the massive macroeconomic shifts driving the compute crisis, Jamgamind delivers the technical-grade audio forensics the C-suite relies on. Visit jamgamind.com. Today, we look at the inference squeeze. We are going to deconstruct the perfect storm choking the AI supply chain, from the helium shortage to the 15 billion token per minute demand. We will analyze OpenAI's countermove against Anthropic with GPT-5.4 Cyber, break down Nvidia's aggressive push to own the quantum computing operating system, and dissect the bizarre pivot of a Silicon Valley shoe company becoming an AI cloud provider. Let's look at the bottom line.
You know, for the last few years, we've basically treated the cloud like it's magic.
Oh, totally.
We toss around these words like cyberspace or serverless, and it creates this weird psychological distance for us. It makes software feel completely weightless.
Right. Infinite.
Yeah, like you just click a button and boom, an app is just born out in the ether somewhere.
It's the ultimate frictionless illusion, honestly. We've been entirely decoupled from physical reality.
But today, looking at the stack of enterprise news and the financial reports we have from April 15th, 2026, we really have to face a pretty brutal reality.
Yeah, we do.
We are physically running out of the internet. I mean, if you're building a business right now or managing a team or just trying to figure out where the tech world is actually heading, you can't rely on the old software playbook anymore.
No, absolutely not.
You have to understand supply chain logistics, P&L, and what you're calling the physical bottleneck, because the age of software abundance is over.
It's completely over. And, to really grasp this physical bottleneck, we have to look at the baseline shift in how AI actually operates today. The conversational paradigm is dead.
Right.
We have moved into an era of agentic token consumption.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that right there is the core of everything we're looking at today. It used to be, you typed a prompt, the AI generated a response, and then it just went to sleep, right?
Exactly. A simple one-to-one exchange, highly predictable and, relatively speaking, low cost.
Right.
But agentic token consumption changes the math completely. Now, AI agents act autonomously.
Right. They're doing their own thing.
Exactly. You give an agent a broad goal like build this app, and it just goes off. It writes code, it queries databases, it spawns its own sub-agents to test its own work.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. It fails, it rewrites the code, and loops endlessly. So it is continuously consuming compute without any human intervention at all.
And that endless looping is exactly what's breaking the infrastructure. I mean, look at the staggering data from the Wall Street Journal on this inference squeeze.
Yeah, those numbers are just insane.
Right. In October 2025, OpenAI's token demand was sitting around 6 million tokens per minute. By March 2026, which is just a few weeks ago, that number skyrocketed to 15 billion tokens per minute.
From 6 million to 15 billion.
In 6 months.
Yeah, in roughly 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the scale of that acceleration is almost impossible to even chart on a standard graph.
It's like we built this massive fleet of millions of digital Ubers, fully autonomous, ready to drive the global economy. But we completely forgot that we actually have to pave physical roads and pump physical gas for them to run.
That's a great way to put it.
And right now, we are out of gas. Is this even remotely sustainable? Are we going to run out of physical servers before these algorithms even reach their peak?
Well, we are hitting the wall right now. That is the essence of the inference squeeze. It's a perfect storm hitting the physical supply chain.
Right.
And The geopolitical instability is a massive factor here. The ongoing conflict in Iran isn't just disrupting global tech logistics and oil prices.
No, it's hitting the weird, obscure stuff.
Exactly. It's heavily disrupting the global supply of helium.
Now wait, I know helium is critical for cooling those high-end silicon chips during manufacturing, but is the supply chain really that fragile?
Oh, incredibly fragile.
Like, we're talking about the backbone of the entire digital economy relying on a single element.
It is non-replaceable in semiconductor manufacturing. You literally need it to create the vacuum environments and manage the extreme heat required to print microscopic circuits on silicon wafers.
Wow!
Yeah, so if the extraction and shipping of helium gets snarled by geopolitical conflict, chip manufacturing basically grinds to a halt. You just cannot print the GPUs.
So we have this astronomical 15 billion token demand driven by autonomous agents?
Colliding with a physical scarcity of the actual chips needed to process them. Exactly.
Which perfectly explains the pricing data we're seeing. The Orin Compute Price Index just estimated that the cost of an hour of Nvidia GPU time has spiked by 48% in just the past few months alone.
And this is exactly why. For enterprise leaders trying to budget for agentic workflows while the cost of GPU time spikes by 48%, financial models must be flawless. Jamgamind provides the human-verified, technical-grade audio forensics required to make these massive capital decisions safely. Visit djamgamind.com.
Because the reality is this squeeze is forcing massive structural shifts at the very top of the AI food chain.
It really is.
Which brings us to Anthropic. They just announced their most powerful model ever, Mythos.
Right.
But they severely restricted the rollout. They limited access to just 40-plus trusted partners. Now, their PR department claims this is entirely about safety and cybersecurity risks.
Of course they do.
But looking at this through the lens of a forensic systems architect, I'm looking at the infrastructure. Are they restricting it because it's too dangerous or simply because they physically cannot run the thing?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the underlying evidence strongly points to a massive compute crisis.
Really?
Yeah. To run a model as complex as Mythos for the general public, you need clusters of tens of thousands of GPUs all firing in tandem.
Which they probably don't have enough of right now.
Right? You need massive amounts of VRAM just to hold the model in memory before it even starts processing a single prompt. So the prevailing analysis is that Anthropic simply does not have the physical server capacity to open Mythos to millions of users.
It's just a desperate shuffle for resources across the board. Microsoft is literally taking over the expansion of a Stargate data center in Norway that was initially intended for OpenAI just to reorganize and hoard compute resources.
Yeah, the hoarding is real.
And when compute becomes this scarce and wildly expensive, companies are forced to react. And based on today's stack of enterprise news, we're seeing the market split into two extreme reactions.
Yeah, two very different paths.
Right. Extreme efficiency or highly cynical capital grabs. Let's look at the efficiency play first.
Well, Snap is the prime example here. They just announced they're laying off about 1,000 people.
Wow, 1,000.
Which is roughly 16% of their full-time global workforce. And they're closing over 300 open roles.
That's huge.
Now, tech layoffs happen, we know that, but the underlying mechanism here represents a massive paradigm shift.
Right. This isn't the classic, we overhired during the pandemic excuse that we've heard for years.
Far from it. They are explicitly stating that AI tools have eliminated the need for repetitive work.
Notice the phrasing there.
Exactly. AI isn't just augmenting a worker to make them 10% faster anymore. Autonomous agents are taking over the entire workflow loop.
The whole thing?
Yeah. By eliminating the human seat entirely for these specific tasks, Snap expects to reduce its annualized cost base by more than $500 million by the second half of 2026.
$500 million wiped off the P&L. If you were managing a team right now, this has to be your wake-up call. You aren't just buying AI software to help your team write emails faster anymore.
No, those days are gone.
You have to look at your org chart and ask whether autonomous agents can run entire operational workflows completely by themselves.
And that organizational shift ties directly back to what Anthropic is doing on the developer side. They just rolled out a major redesign to their Claude Code desktop app.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, they've completely changed the interface to reflect this new reality. They added a drag-and-drop workspace, an integrated terminal, and most importantly, routines that run AI tasks on a schedule.
Or they trigger based on GitHub events.
Right, exactly.
So they aren't building an autocomplete tool for a programmer. They are building a management dashboard.
That is the perfect way to look at it. If you pair scheduled routines with parallel AI sessions, Claude Code essentially becomes a command center.
Right.
Developers are spending less time typing syntax line by line and more time acting as managers of a half-human, half-AI workforce.
It's a total paradigm shift.
You are restructuring your entire organization around the physical bottleneck. You have to maximize the output of every single token.
Okay, so Snap is the logical, albeit totally ruthless, efficiency play. But we have to talk about Allbirds.
Oh boy.
Because if Snap is extreme efficiency, Allbirds is the absolute clown car capital grab. Here's where it gets really interesting, and frankly, I am losing my mind over this one.
The great footwear pivot of 2026.
Seriously, a comfortable Silicon Valley wool sneaker company just sold off its shoe brand for $39 million. They are completely abandoning footwear.
Totally gone.
They rebranded themselves as Newbird AI and declared to the market that they are now a GPU as a service and AI native cloud solutions provider.
It's hard to even say out loud.
And the market rewarded them. Their stock surged 373% today. I mean, some headlines are noting a 700% explosion intraday.
Well, digging into the financials, they actually secured a $50 million investment from an undisclosed institutional investor through a convertible financing facility.
Okay, hold on. Let's translate that Wall Street jargon for a second. What exactly is a convertible financing facility?
It basically means an investor loaned them $50 million, but instead of demanding cash back with interest, the investor has the option to convert that loan into equity shares of the company if the stock price goes up.
Ah, got it.
It's a high-risk, high-reward bet.
But a bet on what? I mean, what does it say about the P&L realities of our current market? When a wool shoe company decides the only way to avoid bankruptcy is to pretend they are an infrastructure provider for artificial intelligence.
It's absurd.
This feels identical to the 2017 crypto craze. Do you remember when the Long Island Iced Tea Corporation rebranded to Long Blockchain Corp and their stock jumped 275%?
Oh, absolutely. The psychological phenomenon is identical here. The market knows that compute is the only commodity that matters right now.
Right.
So capital blindly floods toward anything with the word GPU attached to it, completely, regardless of the underlying fundamentals or the fact that literally yesterday, these people were sourcing merino wool.
It's just wild.
It is a reflection of sheer panic and a desperate thirst for infrastructure.
Listen, trying to navigate this compute squeeze based on Twitter hype is corporate malpractice. Stop collecting shiny beta apps and start deploying actual infrastructure. Etienne has audited the market for the AI Unraveled community. Head over to djamgamemind.com/toolkit for the AI Executive Toolkit. This is a private, forensic vetted stack featuring tools like Chatbase and 11 Labs enterprise-grade weapons designed to drive actual, governed ROI.
And, I really want to pull on that thread, the idea of enterprise-grade weapons.
Yeah.
Because if everyone, from actual tech giants to desperate shoe companies, is pivoting to AI infrastructure and deploying agentic workflows, the security attack surface isn't just growing, it is mutating.
Mutating is the right word.
Kate Johnson, the CEO of Lumen Technologies, just confirmed that over half of the planet's internet traffic is now made up of AI bots.
Over 50% of the internet is no longer human.
Think about that.
Which means we aren't dealing with a teenager in a hoodie guessing passwords anymore. We're dealing with algorithmic threats operating at literal machine speed.
Exactly. And we now have terrifying validation of how capable those threats actually are. UK AI safety evaluators officially confirmed today that Anthropic's Claude Mythos preview successfully completed a 32-step corporate hack simulation.
32 consecutive autonomous steps. That's a massive jump over Opus 4.6. For those not in the weeds of penetration testing, how does an AI actually execute a hack like that? Like, what is the mechanism?
It behaves exactly like a human hacker, but just much, much faster. So step 1, it scans a corporate network looking for open ports or unpatched servers. Okay. Step 2, it finds a vulnerability, maybe an outdated plugin somewhere. Step 3, it writes a custom script to exploit that exact plugin and gain a foothold.
And then it just spreads.
From there, it moves laterally, hunting for higher administrative privileges, stealing credentials, until it reaches the core database. It adapts to firewalls in real time. This is why U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent actually summoned Wall Street leaders for an emergency briefing last week.
Wow. When an AI model like Mythos can autonomously complete a 32-step corporate hack simulation, standard IT firewalls are useless. AII provides the necessary zero-trust micro-VM sandboxing to ensure your autonomous agents and network are insulated from algorithmic attacks.
And let's actually explain that defense mechanism because it's crucial.
Yeah, please.
Micro-VM sandboxing basically means putting every single AI agent or process into its own isolated, highly restricted digital quarantine box.
Okay.
So if an agent gets compromised, it can't infect the rest of the corporate network because it's literally trapped in the sandbox.
Which brings us to a massive philosophical divide between the major AI labs on how to handle this exact cyber posture.
It really does.
Anthropic is taking the walled garden approach. They lock Mythos down, restricting it to 40 partners, citing these exact hacking fears.
Right.
But OpenAI is taking the exact opposite. A model specifically built for defensive security work, and they are rolling it out to thousands of verified defenders through their Trusted Access for Cyber initiative.
And the technical capability of GPT-5.4 Cyber is what makes this so fascinating. It can actually reverse engineer compiled software to flag malware or security flaws.
Hold on, let's ELI5 that for a second,
Yeah.
because we are getting into the weeds. What is a compiled binary, and why is reverse engineering it such a big deal?
Okay, think of source code as a recipe and compiled software, the binary, as a baked cake.
Okay, I like that.
Normally, security analysts need the original recipe to easily spot if someone slipped poison into the batter. But a compiled binary is just the finished cake. It's machine code, a giant wall of ones and zeros.
So it's super hard to read.
Merely impossible for a human to quickly read. But GPT 5.4 Cyber can look at the big cake and instantly figure out the exact recipe, identifying malicious code without ever needing the original source files.
That is an incredible tool for defenders.
It's a game changer.
But the strategic messaging from OpenAI is just as aggressive as the tech itself. OpenAI researcher Foucault Maten publicly stated that cyber defense is a team sport, arguing that no one should be in the business of picking winners and losers.
Yeah, strong words.
Is OpenAI's permissive rollout a direct, calculated jab at Anthropic's walled garden?
It certainly reads like a harsh critique of Anthropic's philosophy.
Yeah.
Matten is essentially arguing that security through obscurity just doesn't work when the attackers are autonomous AI agents.
Right.
If you restrict access to advanced defensive tools like 5.4 Cyber, you leave the broader ecosystem totally vulnerable to the exact 32-step attacks that models like Mythos can now generate.
You have to level the playing field.
You have to arm the defenders en masse to have any real chance against machine speed attacks.
It is a full-blown arms race at this point. But, here's the craziest part of today's stack of sources.
Oh, yeah.
While OpenAI, Anthropic, and desperately pivoting shoe companies are fighting this bloody war over the current physical bottlenecks, silicon GPUs, and server racks, Nvidia's already 10 steps ahead.
Always.
They aren't just selling the current shovels, they are actively maneuvering to monopolize the next compute paradigm entirely.
We're talking about quantum computing.
Yes, we are. Today, Nvidia released Ising. This is the first family of open-source AI models designed specifically to work with quantum computers. Now, for years, quantum computing has been stuck in the lab because the machines are incredibly unstable.
Very finicky machines.
Yeah, the qubits, which are the fundamental units of quantum information, suffer from what's called decoherence.
Right. The slightest environmental noise, a minor fluctuation in temperature, or an electromagnetic wave causes the qubits to lose their quantum state.
Which creates massive calculation errors.
Exactly. And maintaining them requires constant, tedious manual tuning.
So NVIDIA steps in and releases Ising. How does an AI model actually fix a quantum physics problem?
Think of Ising almost like active noise-canceling headphones, but for a quantum computer.
Oh, that's interesting.
It uses predictive AI to anticipate thermal fluctuations and electromagnetic noise in real time, and then it automatically adjusts the control systems to counteract that interference.
That's brilliant.
It turns a days-long manual calibration process into something that takes just a few hours. And it fixes errors as they happen, hitting 2.5 times the speed and 3 times the accuracy of the best alternatives available today.
So what does this all mean? NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang is literally calling this the operating system of quantum machines. He's pitching AI as the missing layer that finally makes quantum technology scalable.
Right.
But if we pull back and look at the strategy, if NVIDIA is giving away the Quantum OS as open source, aren't they basically giving away the razors so they can permanently own the market for the blades?
Well, it is a masterclass in corporate strategy. We connect this to the bigger picture. Analysts refer to this as the Alpamayo playbook.
The Alpamayo playbook, right.
NVIDIA did the exact same thing with self-driving cars, which was Project Alpamayo, and they did it with robotics through Project Isaac GR00T. You build the absolute best AI software layer required to make a new hardware paradigm function, and then you just give that software away for free.
So, by releasing Ising to over 20 major institutions at launch, like Harvard, Cornell, Sandia National Labs, they ensure that every major researcher builds their quantum architecture on top of Nvidia's software ecosystem.
Exactly. They lock in the ecosystem early. And naturally, the Ising software runs most efficiently on Nvidia's own underlying control hardware.
Of course it does.
They are planting their flag in a projected $11 billion quantum computing market before the race is even officially scaled. By the time the current GPU physical bottleneck ends and the industry finally transitions to quantum processing, Nvidia will already own the infrastructure beneath that new paradigm.
It's brilliant and, frankly, a little terrifying. They are commoditizing the software layer to entirely monopolize the physical layer of the future.
It is the ultimate economic moat. While everyone else is fighting over today's token consumption, Nvidia is architecting the foundation for tomorrow's processing power.
Yeah.
Because the underlying physical infrastructure is the only thing that dictates the reality of the software layer. If the compute isn't there, the algorithms just don't matter.
Let's pull all of this together. We started by ripping away the illusion of the infinite cloud. The reality of April 2026 is the physical bottleneck.
The physical reality.
The era of agentic token consumption is here. Autonomous loops are demanding 15 billion tokens a minute, and the physical supply chain from Iranian helium to server racks in Norway is just breaking under the strain.
It's buckling.
In this inference squeeze, the only way a company survives is through massive capital or extreme efficiency. You either deploy AI to ruthlessly cut your cost base, like Snap, redesigning your team into a half-human, half-AI workforce, or you find yourself pivoting out of pure desperation, turning a sneaker brand into a GPU cloud provider just to catch a lifeline from a panicking market.
And as we navigate this transition, we have to look at the societal shift hiding in plain sight within these numbers. If AI agents are now consuming 15 billion tokens a minute and making up over half of all global internet traffic, we aren't just facing a hardware shortage.
No, it's bigger than that.
We have to ask, at what point does the internet stop being a network for human communication and officially become an infrastructure designed exclusively for machines talking to machines?
Subscribe to AI Unraveled on Apple Podcasts to always listen completely ads-FR free.
That concludes our forensic business rundown for April 15th. The strategic signal for today is scarcity. For the last 2 years, artificial intelligence felt like an infinite resource. Today, the physics of the real world are catching up. When OpenAI sees its token demand hit 15 billion per minute, and the cost of GPU inference spikes by 48% in just a few months, we realize that intelligence is a physical utility, and we are running out of it. Anthropic claims they are holding back their most powerful models for safety, but the reality is they probably couldn't power them even if they wanted to. Meanwhile, Snap fires 16% of its staff because algorithms are cheaper than humans, and a sneaker company rebrands as an AI cloud provider just to pump its stock. This is what a market bottleneck looks like. If you want to own your infrastructure instead of being crushed by these shifts, your inbox full of top 50 AI tools PDFs isn't going to save you. You need the right stack. Head over to djamgamine.com/toolkit for my AI Executive Toolkit. I've audited the entire market to bring you a forensic vetted list of enterprise-grade solutions that actually work, complete with exclusive listener perks, so you can deploy real, governed infrastructure today. This episode was made possible by Area and Jamgamind. Hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts to enjoy this briefing completely ads-free. I am Etienne Newman. Stay sharp and keep unraveling the future. And before you go, if your company is building the tools that power the workflows we talked about today, I'd love to showcase them to this audience. We don't just run ads, we build technical simulations that prove your value. Let's build something together. Visit jamgamind.com/partners to get started. Until next time, keep building.